We've talked already about what points look like on the coordinate planes. Now let's change our attention to talking about what lines look like on the coordinate plane. Again, this is something that you went through in Algebra 1. So the key idea about lines is that we can notice how steep they are, and we're going to assign a number to to express how steep that line is. And that number we're going to refer to as the slope. Let's take a look at my GeoGebra screen, and we'll see some lines that I can kind of play around with. So here's an example of a line, and I've got points A and B, and then I've got the line connecting them and then extending in both directions forever. So we can talk about how steep this line is. So this is a line. So moving from A to B, we can see that we're moving up 3 points and over 2. So I want to express that as a ratio. So I'm going to say up 3 and over 2, or positive 3 over 2, to express the slope of this line. I can do the same thing kind of like this. Why don't I do this? All right. So what would the slope of this line be in that same concept? Again, going from my first point to my second point, I'm going up 1 and over 4. So this would be a slope of positive 1 over 4. Notice that if you go up or down and then over, and going over always means going to the right, you're going to be able to express when I say up 1, a positive 1 over 4, thinking of positive 1 over 4 as a fraction gives you the slope of this line. All right, so the slope of this line is 1 over 4. Notice for me that the slope of the number kind of tells you how steep this line is. All right, so this is a slope of 1 over 4. It's less than 1. This is a pretty gentle slope. Whereas this slope over here, the first one we looked at, this has a slope of 3 over 2. So that's greater than 1. This is a much steeper line. If I do something like this, this has a slope of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, positive 5 over 1. This has a slope of 5, so it's very steep. So the magnitude of the number kind of gives you an idea of how steep or gentle it is. Okay, one of the things you remember from Algebra 1 is that a line can also have a negative slope. So here's a line that's going down when we move from left to right. And so we're going to think about this slope as being down 2 and over 3. So if I think of this slope as negative 2 over 3, I'm going to get that the slope of this line is negative 2/3. So again, it's between 0 and negative 1, so it's a pretty gentle slope, as opposed to something like this, which is going to be less than negative 1. So that's going to be a very steep negative slope. We can also have a situation like this, where we're not moving up or down at all. And so we would kind of think of this line as having a slope of 0 over 1, 2, 3. So I'm going up or down 0 over 3. And 0 over 3 is equal to 0. So we're going to think about this line as having a slope of 0. And that kind of makes sense with what we've been saying, that this is the most gentle slope of all. It's not going up or down a bit. And so that represents a slope of 0. By contrast, we could have a slope that's so steep that it's just going straight up and down. And so this would be, well, let me put A down here to keep it honest with what we've been doing up to this point. This is going up 2 and over 0. So this would be a slope of 2 over 0. And what happens when we divide by 0 in math? Well, terrible things happen. We don't do it, that's why, because it's so nasty. So we don't really have a number to express how steep this line is. So we're going to say that this is an undefined slope. Sometimes we say this has no slope. Okay, so that gives you an idea, looking at something from a graphic perspective, of how to find the slope of a line. In the next video, we'll talk about how to calculate the slope algebraically. Again, it's something you did in Algebra 1, but we're just going to hit over it just to make sure that we've got a nice firm foundation in order to build the house we're going to be building in geometry.